Which word of the day? Today's word is another phrase, autumn people. In the novel, Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury, the autumn people are a dark force behind the Pandemonium Carnival, which travels town to town claiming innocent souls by feeding off of their misery and nightmares. The carnival's leader is the mysterious Mr. Dark, who seemingly wields the power to grant someone's secret desires. In reality, Dark is a malevolent being who, like the carnival, lives off the life force of those they enslave.
You haven't even read that?
Wait, what are you doing with the book?
So he has the confidence to finish the story.
Hear now the words of the witches.
This is Kevin, and welcome to Words of the Witches, the Charmed podcast that will guide you through the lesser-known published material in the Charmed universe and decide how it fits into the grand narrative of the TV series. Okay, this is episode 10, book 10. We made it. We are about a quarter of the way through the published novels that are out there. This is the end of our first set of books that I created. It's also the end of the Prue books, sadly. But yeah, we are moving right on. Where this is going to be a very Prue honorary episode. We're gonna talk about Prue a lot. At the end of the episode, we have our top Prue moments, and I also want to encourage you guys to have your best baddies handy. If you're keeping track of your baddies from all the books, get them all in line. Pick your favorites, your top 10 in order, and turn them in at wordsofwitchespod@gmail.com. I'm going to mention that quite a bit throughout the episode, but I want to make sure that you are aware. I'm going to name them all later on, so you can, if you forgot any, you can put them on there. But yeah, definitely turn those in. I am excited to see who will end up on top based on everybody's lists and opinions. Also, please review us if you can. I think if more people give their opinion, it doesn't have to be 5 stars. We love it 5 stars, but just leave your opinion of the review, because I always like to take any feedback we get. It all helps to better the show. To know what you like and what you dislike, and if you have any suggestions about how we can improve. That's always great. The book this week is Beware What You Wish, not Be Careful What You Wish For, because it can get confusing when you think about the episode title. And my guest this week is Paul, aka Dayspring from Power of X-Men podcast, and he brings his charmed expertise to the table here. So here we go. So you have your podcast, Power of X-Men, which I will be appearing on later today.
I can't wait.
You know.
In like an hour.
Yeah, right. Do you want to talk about the pod a little bit?
Yeah, so we are an X-Men community where geeks from all walks of life can come and join. You don't have to be an expert X fan, and you can be a crazy Jean Grey fan like me. And every opinion, every perspective is welcomed as long as there's no hate involved. But the idea of the community and the podcast, and now a YouTube video, or excuse me, a YouTube channel, is that we can all kind of come together and just celebrate the X-Men, and there's no toxic gatekeeping. And I really like the idea of it being like a virtual version of picking up like a Wizard magazine from the 90s, where you can see we talk to writers, editors, actors, fans, cosplayers, anyone, is welcome on the podcast. And we just have a fun kiki. That's it.
Yeah. I remember I really enjoyed your X-Men Legends episode.
Patrick Lippo. Can I give a spoiler on here?
Sure.
I interviewed the director for X-Men Legends 2, who also did Ultimate Alliance 1, Dan Von Drack. And that
I'm looking at all those games. All those games are right there in the corner. I'm looking at them right now.
Oh my God, but you have the Charmed House behind you.
Oh, I do.
Oh my God.
And there's the Book of Shadows right here. We have the Spirit Board over there. Yeah.
Oh my God, Kevin, why are you so perfect? Like I'm just like, I'm so beside myself right now. You have, dude, your room right now, X-Men Legends and the Book of Shadows. That's all I need out of my life.
But I was excited about that because I didn't know he was from Wisconsin. Madison is just like 45 minutes west. It's real easy. I can get there super easy.
Well, it's so funny. I always think you're in LA.
Everyone always thinks that.
Well, because you look like such an LA boy. You got like this big, majestic smile. You're always out and about. You're very friendly. You're charismatic. So I just assumed LA.
Yeah, no, just little Wisconsin here, you know. But yeah, it was cool. And you know, there's a charmed connection with X-Men Legends. Yeah.
Oh, there's a charmed connection with X-Men Legends. Wait, I'm trying to see if I can. Oh my God, I don't know. I don't know off the top of my head. You give me the official connection.
Lee Allen Baker.
Oh my God. Yeah, she voices Jean Grey, and she was on Will and Grace. And yes, she was in season. I am ashamed right now. Dude, we should try to like hunt her down and see if she can give a joint interview.
Oh, that'd be really cool. Ooh.
I'm just saying, future episode, future collaboration.
Yeah. Oh, how did you discover Charmed? I always ask this to all my guests.
So here's the thing. I was a huge Rose McGowan fan when I was, in my early teens. I loved her in Scream. I loved her in Jawbreaker. I initially saw Charmed when it first aired, like that first pilot in 1998.
Correct.
I want to say. And it didn't speak to me because I was such a huge Buffy fan. So I was knee deep in the Buffy verse. I was like, I don't think I can, add Charm to my repertoire of stand-em. So I was X-Men, I was Buffy, I was Sailor Moon, I was Magic Knight Ray Earth. And Charmed was an organic choice for me, but I was like, it sounds cool, but whatever. That season 3 and season 5 of Buffy dies at the end of season 5. Spoilers if you didn't know that. And then obviously season 3 with All Hell Breaks Loose, Prue dies. And so I remember seeing the promo coming in the fall where they're like, the power of 3 is restored by another. Rose McGowan joins Alyssa Milano and Holly Marie Combs. And I was like, oh my God, I'm just so interested in this. And I saw Charmed again. That was like the first time I got really into Charmed because I loved that previously on Charmed, and they kind of recap everything that happened. And I'll never forget the line where the announcer says, although many assassins have tried, one finally destroyed the power of 3. And then the doors shatter and everything. And then I was just so hooked. And I thought what Rose McGowan said at the time, it's a show about sisters who are witches, not witches who are sisters.
And that's been the mantra since the beginning of time. They've always been going with that, which is great.
and so I just really felt with the characters, and I felt strong rapport with them. And then I started kind of watching like the reruns on TNT in the morning, because this is before DVDs, because I'm a grandpa apparently. And I started loving Prue. I thought I had wished I had a big sister like Prue. That's where it sort of stems from. So yeah, eventually, over the years, I've watched the series countless times, and I just feel very fortunate to be on your podcast to geek out with you.
Thank you. I'm very excited. This is going to be a great time.
I'm sorry, I'm rambling. I'm like, you asked me like, how did you discover Charm? I'm like, well, let me tell you my life history now.
I mean, it's surprisingly a lot of people end up with that because they usually have these big stories, and I enjoy hearing them. I'm never going to censor you. So
Thank you for the freedom. Free press right here.
You're welcome. So this is the last Prue book as well. So it's like the trauma. Right? It's like, I wish there would have been at least 5 more books at least, but
I'm so heartbroken because I thought it was such a good book. And Kevin, I just really want to thank you because I was never really into like these tie-ins, even for like Buffy or X-Men, like these novelizations. And reading this, and I think I told you at the beginning of our conversation, I don't know if we had hit record yet. I read this the second I got it back in April. And then last night I reread up until page 92, chapter 8. And both reads were so wonderful. Like I really enjoyed it. So I think I may have to go back. And I've obviously heard your podcast before. I think I'm just gonna have to go back and like revisit some of these novelizations from my favorite shows or franchises from, back in the day in the early 2000s.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool because this podcast I'm learning is really inspiring people. I've had so many people tell me that they're buying the books now, or they're digging out their collection that they had back in the basement. So it's pretty cool that it's inspiring these comebacks.
Well, that's a testament to the hard work you're doing. And I love how when you were like, oh, I have a little summary if you want me to send it to you. boyfriend, that summary is like pages long. I mean, I thought I was OCD when it came to like production and stuff like on podcasts. And then I was like, oh, thank you for this book report, Kevin.
That's how we roll. So this book is called Beware What You Wish. Not to be confused with Be Careful What You Wish For, the episode from season 2.
I kept calling this book when I was talking to people about it. I'm like, I'm reading Be Careful What You Wished For. And I was like, that's a missed opportunity that they didn't use witch instead of wish. And I was like, oh no, but they did that already in the series in season 2.
Yeah. So I'm like, all right. Yeah, I always call this book that too. I'm like, no, that's not the name. It's Beware What You Wish. But there was no season 3 promo pictures. So this is another season 2 promo pictures. It's got like a really like sunset reddish orange background and a Ferris wheel in the background.
The Ferris wheel, which plays a big part later on in the book.
It does. I
love that cover design. I used to work in book publishing, so I appreciate a good jacket design.
Yes, foreshadowing. And at the tagline, "Visions of evil are everywhere." ...
Poor Phoebe. Look at poor Alyssa Milano there.
Yeah.
Poor.
And then the back of the book says, when wishes give dark powers life, stark disaster becomes rife. Danger, chaos, evil rise before our unsuspecting eyes. While photographing. Well,
you know what? The copy is so hard to read. I'm like, I hope he doesn't ask me to read that because I'm like, I can't read that.
Yeah. While photographing Stephen Tremaine, a wealthy businessman running for public office, Prue notices an ancient stone statue from South America. Then the next morning, Prue, Piper, and Phoebe are disturbed by the number of tragic incidents in the news. Wishing she could foresee more calamities in order to prevent them, Phoebe suddenly gets dizzy, but the feeling passes. Soon, Phoebe is having more visions than she can handle, and the sisters can't keep up with the impending accidents and disasters. Then a terrible vision sends the Hallowells to a charity carnival where Tremaine will face his opponent. The Charmed Ones must summon the power of 3 to avert a tragedy and save San Francisco, if they can find out which disaster to stop. Oh my God.
Oh my God. I loved how you read that. Yes.
Oh, thank you. Yes. So the author of this book is Diana G. Gallagher. She'll actually go on to write 6 more Charmed books after this. As well as the Book of 3 Part 1 and 2, which was the Charmed official guide books that they go through every episode with Paul Ruditz.
Oh, I miss those guidebooks. Oh my God. And Paul, I mean... Hello. Oh, you have them there. But he did such a great job with the comic book.
Yes. Yeah. Because Paul's first book, I believe, is The Brewing Storm, which happens around season 5 books, and then then he starts doing the comic books. So, yeah, these are names we will hear a lot going forward. And then this was published July 31st, 2001, and reprinted October 1st, 2001.
Oh my God, where were you July 31st, 2001?
Oh my gosh, that was, it was short, only a few months after season 3. It was the summer, and I was probably just like freaking out about what's going to happen next.
Well, because the rumors at that point were that because obviously Shannen Doherty had her DUI, if I remember correctly.
That's right. Yeah.
And we didn't know she was going to leave probably until like June, right? But like I remember thinking I remember seeing that her and Julian McMahon had already started promoting season 4, or they had appeared at a convention together or something like that. And then obviously the news hit that she wasn't going to come back. And the rumor was, are they going to start with a new Prue, like a new actress to play Prue, or are they going to hire someone else? And then, of course, Tiffany Amber Thiessen's name was thrown around, Jennifer Love Hewitt, Eliza Dushku. It's so that was a pretty wild summer. I even remember those rumors. And again, I wouldn't become a huge Charm stan until that fall. And even I had already heard all that.
I mean, let's talk about that. What were the rumors you heard? I'm going to go over what the rumors are and then what I think actually happened.
Julian McMahon and Shannen Doherty did appear at a convention before it was announced she was leaving.
And they were an item. They were dating.
And they were an item. They were dating. Yeah.
And they just did a movie together another day.
Oh, yeah.
So that was yeah.
So apparently Shannen then came out on the news and said that Holly didn't want to come back. And I don't know how true that was.
I remember it was Entertainment Weekly. I remember that.
Yeah.
The Entertainment Weekly interview. And she says, well, she's like, Holly's not even sure if she was going to go back because, I'm not going to be there. And I believe that there was some definitely debate because she was probably on the fence for a while because, it's her best friend. That for Holly and Shannen were like, they were inseparable. Yeah.
I'm sad about that. I heard that episode of Wine Moms or whatever, where Holly was talking about her relationship with Shannen. And I thought she had such great clarity on that relationship.
I did. That was a great interview. Yeah, that was a great
interview. And what she said about Shannen being like, even on her worst day, she was no worse than some male, forces on set. But she gets pegged as being like this this person you can't work with because she's driven, she wants to do her best, and she likes to understand everything. Everyone should listen to that interview if they're a fan of Charmed.
Yeah. I always hate when people call Shannen Doherty a bitch. I'm like, no, she is powerful, she's strong, and she knows what's good and what she likes, and that's all it is. And people just automatically put her into that category, and it's like you don't understand.
Did Jennifer Love Hewitt was offered the role of Paige, but she rejected it?
I don't remember if she was offered it or not. I know she was in the running. I know she was like one of the people they were considering. I don't remember if she was actually offered or not, though.
And then Rose McGowan didn't need to audition for the role because she was filming somewhere and Aaron Spelling called her. And I think she said this at a con or something. She's like, ha ha ha, Aaron Spelling, and then hung up.
Yeah.
And then she said on her flight back to LA or wherever she was going back, Charmed was on there, and she had never seen Charmed, before, and was gravitated towards it. And then she's never seen Charmed on a plane since. Which I was like, girl, I don't know what flights you're on. I used to see Charmed all the time when I was flying back in like the mid 2000s.
Charmed is everywhere. Between the TNT rooms and like they always played at the gym. I'm always at the gym and Charmed is there.
You always at the gym. I can't notice. I can't notice with your bulging muscles.
But yeah,
I just run, for the record. I just run like 8 miles a day.
Well, that's good. I'm not a runner, so that's it's good that you got that going. I do a little bit of cardio here and there, but I don't ever like hardcore cardio.
Well, whatever you're doing, it clearly is working. So don't take my advice.
But yeah, and the whole rumors of Alyssa and Shannen, bothers me too. Because
what happened? Tell me. Give me the tea.
Because I'm sure there's definitely tension between them, but it wasn't as epic or as like this big feud as like the media made it to be. I think it was more a beef with Brad Kern.
Oh yeah.
Because Shannen had ideas for the show and she wanted to take it in a direction that she thought was more appropriate, something more serious, and had more emotional depth, because that's the kind of girl she is. And she got in a lot of fights with Brad, and then she's like, I want to leave. I want out. But they wouldn't let her out for a while. So and then I think with Alyssa, it was more of like she was taking the side of her boss because that's where her paycheck was coming from.
Yeah.
And it was more of like a conflict of interest versus like a personal like vendetta against each other.
I see that. Rose and Holly did a Instagram live, and when like Holly got up to go get her kid, Rose started answering questions, and one of the questions was, did Shannen and Alyssa hate each other? And Rose smokes her cig and she goes, yeah, I'm pretty sure they did, but don't tell Holly that. and I agree with you. I don't think, when I think about it from a business perspective, like Shannen probably did not agree with Brad Kern's direction. I haven't heard the things I've seen in interviews from the girls. Well, not all of them, but just let's say Holly. I've always gotten the impression that Brad Kern just didn't really understand where they wanted the show to go, or was in touch with the fans. And I can definitely see where the media would have run with a more provocative headline of Alyssa and Shannen, but they reconciled and were DMing each other on Twitter. Oh, yeah. So they're good. They're good. It's Rose and Alyssa now that I'm worried about, because I want a Charmed reunion. They need to get on board.
Like, get on with it. I know, and it's so hard because they're very, something about the Charmed is that these girls are all passionate, and I can respect them for all different ways, but they butt heads. So,
and if you see the blooper reels that have been released for season 3, especially towards the end, Alyssa and Shannen do not look like they're being angry at each other. just look like coworkers. And by the way, someone who's worked in an office space very intimately with other people, sometimes you just butt heads with some. It is not personal. It is not anything. It is just a disagreement on business. That is it.
Right. A fact of life.
They're coworkers. You sometimes don't get along with your coworkers.
Mm-hmm.
That's life. Anyways, I'm sorry. I digress. Do you know any rumors or anything or any really inside tea that I just don't know?
I mean, I think we pretty much covered it all. I mean, because my thing with Shannen, that's more speculation, but it's what I believe. Because I don't like Brad. I don't think he's a good guy.
No. And I think, was there something with the Book of Shadows? Him and Holly were supposed to divide the time with it.
Yeah, he took it.
He took it. Yeah. Bueno. Oh, wait. The other thing I wanted to ask was, was Alyssa toxic ever on set? Because Rose has said that about her.
Said that.
And I feel like someone else said something at one point. Like Alyssa and Holly didn't get along at one point. Back when Shannen and Holly were doing their Off the Map, Roadmap, whatever the series. And like Alyssa had said something about Charm being like high school. And Holly was like, she didn't even go to high school. Right. So was Alyssa more, and by the way, it's not a judgment. I'm just curious because I mean, it's the early 2000s. You're all in your 20s and your 30s. Shit happens.
Right. I think it was more of like a teasy banter. I don't know if it wasn't so people always make it out to be bigger than it is. And I think there was probably just like little disagreements or just like, you didn't go to high school. What do you know? Like just like
it's like fighting with your sister. It literally is fighting with your sister.
They're such a family. I love it.
I know. I love them so much. I love all four of them. Well, I hope, I know it's been hinted at with a Netflix reunion. I hope maybe that will happen. I don't know.
I don't see it anytime soon because all it is a bunch of talk and talk and talk and then nothing happens. So
just bullshit because they carried so much of the WB brand on their shoulders and they get shit for it.
Yeah. The studios, the Warner Brothers treated them like shit. Brad Kern treated them like shit. Brad Kern wasn't even around for most of the time anyway. He was always just in the writer's room. They barely even ever saw him. Yeah. So they kind of ran the show, especially near the end. They pretty much ran the show themselves. And they did it for us and for the decency of the show. They wanted it to be good and they did their best.
I love the finale. I'm not going to jump ahead in the conversation, but I love the finale. For me, that's one of the best finales I've ever seen. My only qualm, of course, was that I would have loved to see Shannen Doherty there. And if you couldn't get Shannen, you go to the past. I remember thinking Piper's in the past. Her sisters are upstairs. I would be like, I want to see Prue. I want and cast a younger actress to play Prue.
Right. All they did was like, had Finola. She's like, oh, it's just you and Prue. And like, where's Prue? And then Piper's just like, oh, Mom. Like that's all we really got. I'm like,
Mom, not now. And then at the end, like, I felt like it was a jab at Shannen when Finola's Patty says, well, when one door closes, another one opens. And I was just like, And then like Rose McGowan, the camera goes in on her and she kind of like nods. I'm like, no, like, I get it. But like, I don't want to choose between Prue and Paige.
Right.
I like both characters.
We want unity. We want
unity. But anyways,
everyone have their time. Oh, but we should get with this book.
I'm sorry. No. So if you follow my podcast, you now know why.
Why we're 3 hours long.
3 hour longs. Like, I'm sorry.
I know, but I did want to talk about that stuff too, so I'm glad we did. So this novel is supposed to take place between Death Takes a Halliwell, season 3, episode 16, and The Demon Who Came in from the Cold, season 3, episode 19. So that's their time frame that they're putting it in.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right.
I was kind of thrown off by that, but we'll talk about it.
Yeah, because there's lots of things that, when they give you the time frame, then you have to go like, okay, what's the continuity of this? How does this not canon? So
where the fuck is Cole?
So
okay. I'll do chapter 1 because this is when Prue starts photographing Stephen Tremaine, and he's running for Congress, and he's a very wealthy business person, and she's photographing him for 415. And before the shoot, he is also showing Prue his collection of cultural antiques. Thank you for these notes, by the way.
Oh, you're welcome.
She is impressed, but she is also disturbed at how he might have gotten some of these things. And I really did actually like this particular scene, because one of the things that I loved about this photography section and when she was noticing his artifacts is that they bring in her time at Buckland's.
Exactly. It was bridging her two careers together. It was so perfect.
It was, and by the way, so like on the show, if you're not following along and if you're like a dumb 15-year-old like me, you're like, oh, okay, so she's working at an auction house and now she's following her dreams to be a photographer. You never think about how those two are related. And it talks about, I don't know if it was in this chapter, but later on, I think it's probably when she's in like the room, developing the photographs, that she loved her job at Buckland's, but photography was her passion. And it's scary now be a freelancer, but it sort of works out. So I absolutely love that in this scene, it was able to merge both of those. And that goes to the writer. The writer nailed that.
It was so perfect. It really was.
So she photographs him with the spirit stone from his collection. And Stephen has like this moment of dizziness because I think he wished that he didn't have to run against, I'm forgetting
Noel Jefferson.
I was going to say Leon Jefferson. Not Leon. But I think he said that. And that's when, how do you say the demon's name for this?
Athulak? I don't know.
Athulak. I think so. That's when Athulak is like released from the stone with the wish. And he gets a little dizzy and he's embarrassed by his weakness and he dismisses Prue. But Prue leaves realizing the war and intimidation were part of his methods. And the nice guy was just his way of keeping up appearances.
Sorry.
No worries. I'm reading his notes because I read and I did not take any notes. And Kevin here is so well organized. And I try to do most of it from memory. And he has a great outline here. So thank you so much for being so hospitable. But I thought it was a great kickoff to that chapter, to the story. I'm curious what you thought.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed that. I was having a lot of Finley Beck kind of parallels. Do you remember Finley Beck from the show? He was the photographer that Prue was photographing in Chick Flick, and he was just kind of douchey to her and stuff.
Yes.
So I kind of had a feeling of that. Stephen was a little bit nicer but he was trying to like get the vote and get people to like him, but she could tell that there was something that was actually more of a cocky kind of asshole in there. So, and she talks about how she doesn't agree with his politics and stuff. And so, this is just something that she's doing for her job, for the paycheck. And
can I ask you a question? Because this is the first thing. So I thought it was such a cinematic, like opening chapter. And I thought, who would play Stephen Germain if this were an actual adaptation? And I don't know if I have an answer. It'd have to be like someone like Misha Collins, who would one day become like a CW superstar, who obviously was a love interest for Phoebe in the series for one episode. And I couldn't really think of someone because I don't know. I'm curious if you have anyone who comes to mind.
I have the face. I can't think of his name. Gay guy in like Best Friend's Wedding. What's his name? Not that.
Rupert Everett?
Yes. I don't know why. I don't know why.
Okay, fair. No, that's actually good because I had actually thought of someone like Shane West.
Oh, so that's a little bit more of that like seediness. Okay.
Seediness or just like TV/movie actor who was big in the 90s, although Rupert Everett was pretty big. I love Rupert Everett. I don't know why I didn't think Stephen Germain wasn't as sophisticated in my head. Okay. He's felt a little bit more novice-y for me, but I don't know, just because girlfriend almost had like a fainting spell because oopsie, the spiritual stone actually harbors this like century old demon. And it was just released, but I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, interesting. It's fine. It's good. Chapter 2. The sisters are enjoying a picnic in the park. And Phoebe is like, oh, isn't it romantic? We're just sitting here with the birds and the sunshine. We love it.
Diana, thank you for that riveting description of the park.
Yeah, yes. And Piper woes that Leo isn't around much lately. I don't know if they ever tell you this, but they're recently married. I put this together since this is supposed to be season 3. They're recently married. So he's like, okay, we're together, and he's not here. He went up there, and because time is different there. he's gone for 2 weeks when up there he's only 3 days. It's fine.
It was weird. Was this a chapter where they're like, oh yeah, and the elders allowed her to get married to Leo as long as he could still do his white lighter duties and she fulfill her responsibility of protecting the innocents? I was like, that's not how it went down on the show, but I get it. This was written months before they probably got married.
Right. And in the show, it was Piper's willingness to let Leo go to do her job that brought him back. She's like, if that means I had to give up Leo, then I guess that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. Direct quote, by the way.
I love, and by the way, your rendition of Holly Marie Combs is perfect.
Well, thank you. But yeah, that's when he's like, must have been something you said or did that made them reconsider. It's because they
after the little like goblins like attacked her and she was in the parking lot of P3.
Right. They're like, you just said trolls to knock me down.
Now you said trolls to knock me down. And like Piper, season 3 Piper, I feel you. Like, man, like trolls do knock you down and you're cursing the heavens for it.
Yeah. It's like tangential to what actually happened. It's not exactly the real true story, but the gist is there.
Fair enough.
Yeah. And so then Prue talks about her encounter with Steven and his stone and the photos, and she's like, I don't like him. He's against the environment and he's all about for wealthy people. And they're at the park and they're always like, Piper freezes her lemonade so it doesn't spill, and Prue like uses her telekinesis to throw something in the trash, and like, why are you using your powers right here in the open in public? Like, that's kind of a bad idea. And then they talk about how P3 is going to be doing a celebrity charity event, and P3 is a booth, and there's going to be this big carnival summer thing. That sounds fun. I'd probably go to that.
I know. I would totally be there.
Yeah. It's kind of reminds me of like a state fair type of thing that we have here in Wisconsin. And yeah, I'd be down.
That sounds lovely.
Yeah. Piper mentions Rick, a new bartender working at P3, and he's like, ooh, Phoebe, I think he likes you.
And that's when I was like, that's kind of insensitive, because like, do they think Cole is still dead at this point in season 3 where this is supposed to happen? I don't think so. I think maybe they would have found out. But anyways, this was the first time I started thinking of Cole. And I was like, why are they saying that to her? Either she's with Cole or Cole just died.
Right.
To them, they think Cole's just dead, but Phoebe obviously knows he's alive.
Yeah. Well, let's see. This was happening late season. So at this point, they know he's alive.
Yeah.
He was at Piper and Leo's wedding.
Oh, you're right. He was at Piper and Leo's wedding. God.
But he's been on the run from bounty hunters at this point.
It's fine. You know what? They had an off-screen, off-page fight, and they're broken up for like the sake of the story. And that's it.
Right. Yeah. All of a sudden, a soccer ball flies because they're having a cake for picnic because they're fancy. They have cake.
Who brings a fucking cake for a picnic?
I know. Who's gonna eat all that? Okay. Soccer ball comes in and flies into the cake, and Phoebe is covered in the cake. She's like, "Why did you freeze it?"
I was so thrown off by that. I was like, Piper, you literally just froze something. You just froze a fucking lemonade, and you're not going to do the soccer ball that's going to hit the cake? Come on.
Right. She's probably just mad because Phoebe told her to cool it, and now.
That's exactly. I'm so glad you said that, because I was like, that's some passive aggressive like sister shit right there. She's like, oh, sorry. Good. I'm glad you read it like that, because I didn't know if I should taken it in earnest or like, oh, Piper was being a little facetious, but I read it as her being a little bit more facetious.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. I'm glad we're on the same page.
Mm-hmm. And then Phoebe's like, okay, here, a little girl comes to get the ball. She's like, here, little girl, here's your soccer ball. And as she hands her the ball, she gets a premonition of a furry demon thing. She calls it a furry demon thing, but it's like she sees the girl screaming and getting trampled by like hair. Like, she looks around. She's like, "Oh, was it a pony? Maybe it's a pony over there."
Maybe it's a pony there. It's like, girl.
So then the girl's like, "Oh, I wish I had a pony." Oh, and then all of a sudden, the pony breaks free of the handler and just gallops towards the girl. And then Prue and Piper discreetly use her powers to save her. She briefly freezes the horse, and Prue moves the girl. And then the pony comes back to life and runs away past her. So girl was safe. All the park patrons are like, whoa, what just happened? Crazy. Let's go see what's went down over there. And the girl's parents come and whatever, everything's fine.
whatever, everything's fine.
No one noticed the magic. So all the hubbub was the real spectacle there. But an evil, wispy presence who has the power to turn human desire into harm. He was seething because his efforts were thwarted. He's like, oh, who did this? She was supposed to be killed. Why are these witches here?
Athalok is like, I'm not handling this. Like, Jesus. So then we pick up in chapter 3, and they're going through, I'm doing this from memory. So Piper, Prue, and Phoebe are back at the house. Phoebe's like, oh, this is my day off. Like, because the thing that's been going on, if listeners or readers don't remember, Phoebe's in college and she's cramming for those final exams, and she's been nonstop for weeks. So she is burnt out. Girl's like, I'm done. I'm parking on my sofa. I got my trashy novel, which I believe was described as like a gothic romance.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, sultry.
Yes.
And Prue was going through the newspaper, making sure that nothing from the day before with the park made it in the paper. And they were like, no, check everything. Every page did you. And then Phoebe turns on the news and she sees like everything that happened yesterday. And I thought this was actually really a beautiful, tender scene, because I think Phoebe says something to the effect of like, I get these premonitions. Why do I get certain premonitions, but not others? Like, I want to be able to help so many people. I wish, my power would be stronger or expand or whatever she says. And guess who is in that living room? Athalok, who hears that. He's like, whoa. And then
like, I got you now, witch.
I got you now. And then he just like floats away through the air. Like, I'm just picturing that bad CG from when was Apocalypse Now, where Prue is being like chased and like, that's exactly what I'm envisioning here.
Yeah,
I loved it. You know, one thing that I really did love about Charmed, and I think came out in specifically this chapter, I love the girls just being at home and having a casual kiki, and like I like seeing their like normal everyday lives. Like, that's where it really resonated with me. And I love how the writer describes, the one who could freeze time, the seer, or like the blue-eyed raven. I was just like, I can see. By the way, did you notice also in this chapter, Piper and Phoebe are downstairs and Prue comes down? And that's in season 4, where Piper says how much she misses Prue. It's like Prue was always the first one up and the last one down. And Prue is the last one down in this.
Yeah. And I've mentioned that in some of the other podcasts we did, because it's been pretty consistent in all these books. I'm like, yes, I love that. Cool. Piper and Phoebe are at the grocery store, which I don't know if we've ever seen them at the grocery store in the series. I can't think of a time.
No, I was thinking that too, because I pictured them in like the aisles of like Publix. I'm from Florida, so when I think of grocery stores, I think of Publix. No, I don't think I've ever seen them.
Yeah, so
I could be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I consider myself quite a Charmed expert, and usually I'm pretty good about that stuff. But
we're gonna take your word for it.
But yeah, I just never. I know there's like there's outside marts and stuff they've been to, but
no. Season 1, they were at a pharmacy,
like a Walgreens.
When Prue's power manifests. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think we've ever seen them at an actual like supermarket.
Yeah, so here they are at the grocery store supermarket. And they're going to get cool food for P3. We want people to think we're cool. and so for the P3 booth at the event, Piper hands Phoebe some muffins, and then Phoebe's like, wait, hold it. Because Piper's walking with the cart. She's like, no, wait. And then all of a sudden a man came speeding with his cart and nearly crashed into Piper. And Phoebe had permission of it happening, and Piper getting a broken wrist, and she stopped it from happening. So thank you for that premonition. And so Piper's like, oh, I miss Leo some more. Thanks for saving me by Miss Leo.
Poor Piper, always missing Leo.
Yeah.
Girlfriend, you don't want to know what's going to happen in 2 years.
I know. God.
You're really going to miss him in 2 years.
And then Phoebe gets another vision of a stock boy being squished by a truck. So they follow him back to the warehouse in there, and there's like a semi backing up. There's like a forklift, and yeah, he's about to get squished. And so Piper freezes the scene. They save the boy, gets him out of the way, and then they freeze everyone again and run away. That's what they do: freeze and run. That's the classic thing to do.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So, and they're like, hope they didn't see us. And then they go to the checkout with all their food. And at the checkout, Phoebe has another vision of like the clerk getting a paper cut. She's like, just be careful you don't get a paper cut.
And I love how like the checkout clerk was like gave like a weird look or something like that.
Yeah.
And then of course, what happens? Girlfriend gets the paper cut.
Mm-hmm.
Let this be known. You should listen to Phoebe Halliwell.
Yeah, she
I wanted to do the baby Phoebe Halliwell voice. Like, listen to baby Phoebe.
I hereby proclaim this tower of sand, Kingdom Phoebeville.
Oh my God, you do such a great baby Phoebe voice.
I have a lot of quotes in my head because I used to like take dialogue from the show and put it onto CD and play it all around in my head.
Stop. How old were you when you did that?
I was, like 13, 14, all through high school.
We would have been BFFs if we had grown up in the same neighborhood.
Oh my God, totally. That would have been great.
You've been like, who's this hot mess?
Like, he gets me.
I'm like, let's go to Barnes and Noble and read like the guides for Buffy and Charmed and like find Sailor Moon manga.
Yeah, right. Prue is in her dark room and she develops her photos of Steve and Tremaine. On the prints, Prue is noticing like this gray defect on the stone, and she's like, okay, that's weird. And then she keeps looking at the pictures, and she notices that the mark is getting bigger in every picture. So she's like, I'm on a mission. I need to figure out what this is. It's like, is this my film? Is this something else entirely? Is this supernatural? I don't know. I'm going to figure it out. She goes out to get her film, and she recreates the lighting that she had upstairs, and she starts taking pictures of the furniture to test out.
But you miss one innocuous yet very important detail.
What?
She stops to get tea first. Like constantly throughout this book, they're always sipping like coffee or tea or have cravings for granola. I'm like, this is so like late 90s, early 2000s.
Yes.
I'm like, give me granola and tea.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that I think was that scene with Prue in I'm forgetting what those rooms are called. The dark room. Is that what you call them?
I mean, it's a dark room. She had it in the basement, but she turned the basement into the dark room.
I hope she's okay sharing it with the Woobly. What was it called? The demon, the Woobly?
Woogie Man.
The Woogie Man. What I loved about that scene, though, was the introspection with Prue. And again, I think I mentioned this already, where she had transitioned from working at Buckland's to being a freelancer and the fear that kind of comes with it. But also that like the dark room is off limits to the sisters. And if they opened up, this is what would happen to her photographs. I thought it was just a really nice touch because, again, it shows them as a family, how they function together, how, they sort of have this dynamic and each sister is like really unique. And I think specifically for Prue, that was, her thing. She needs this space. So
yeah,
I know. Sorry, crazy Prue fan here. Anything Shannen Doherty does, I'm like obsessed.
Yeah, I mean,
I went back to Riverdale because of her for that one scene of hers.
I only watched that. I never seen any Riverdale at all, except for that one scene. I went to YouTube. I'm like, I need to find this scene. I'm like, I'm crying. I know nothing about these characters, but I'm crying right now.
So Piper confronts Phoebe about how quiet she is. And Phoebe admits that the amount of visions she is having is weirding her out. And Piper just thinks that her power is growing stronger, which I thought was such a really great logical conclusion because they would talk about things like that.
Yeah.
So Piper and Phoebe go to Sam's Market for produce, and Phoebe gets yet another premonition of a car accident for a mother and a toddler who just left the store. They abandon their groceries and they get into the car and they chase after them. And car chase. They they catch up to the minivan, and Piper hopped out and froze the van before it got hit by a fire truck. Like these people in San Francisco are like in incredible danger all the time. And by the way, your notes for this chapter are so great because I'm drawing a blank on it. I was like, I remember they were in a car and they saved a mother. Like that's exactly what I would have said. So thank you for your notes again.
Okay.
Piper and Phoebe come home and they unpack. When Prue comes in and shows them the furniture pieces, they look fine. There's no defect. There's no problems with the lens. So what is the something else that's wrong? And I love that part in the narration because I think it says something like, but for the Charm sisters, something else means, you know.
Yeah.
And I loved that. And I love how like Phoebe walks in and she's automatically like salty. She's here like, so our couch is Stephen Germain now. Like I loved how I just love the entire dynamic of that. And the one thing I want to say about the book so far, and I was taken aback by it, and this is a testament to the writer and the tie-ins the franchise was doing. This felt very cinematic. I really did feel I was watching a novelization, I was reading a novelization of of an episode. It's easy to write things off, and I just want to give credit to Diana Gallagher because I think she clearly understands the voices and these characters.
Right. Yeah, she does a good job of that. And that's probably why she writes 6 more books. So
that publisher was like, here you go, take these hundies.
Prue and Phoebe go to the library on campus where, Phoebe goes to college, and they start to research the Spirit Stone. Or they go there to research it. They don't really start. They go there to research, and they find some books. They're about to read them, but then Prue gets like a chill. She's like, ooh. I don't like it's cold over here. I
just felt a chill.
Oh,
really, Prue? Really?
Phoebe?
I know. Yeah, I went there.
I know.
Phoebe, where are you? Girl, she's not coming back.
Oh
Girl, she ain't coming back for you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So they decide to check out the books instead. So they we just read them at the house. It's fine. Oh yeah, and Phoebe starts to get another vision as they leave, but you don't see what it is. And then Piper is home cooking.
She's cooking. I'm forgetting what she was cooking for specifically.
Yeah. And then she's crying because she's missing Leah.
I'm like, Piper,
get it together.
Come on, girlfriend.
I mean, like, I know.
Although I get it. Leo's pretty cute. Season 3 Leo's pretty cute.
Brian Krause always compliments my arms every time he sees me. So I'm like, I'll take that as a win. Anyway, Phoebe calls Piper, and so Piper's at home, and she gets a call from Phoebe and gives her the address where she believes a woman will fall out of a window of a building.
Oh my God, I know, I loved it.
she's like, you need to go. We're not close enough. Go get her. Like, we'll meet you there. So Piper rushes to the scene, and she finds the alleyway where the window's gonna break, and it does. And she's like freezes time like 3 different times before they get there. She's like, okay, she's falling. Okay, grab her. Oh, she's falling. And but then the woman is caught by her boyfriend, and then his grip is slipping. So she's like, oh God, I'm gonna have to freeze him again. But she's like, if she falls, I can't stop the fall. So Prue and Phoebe finally arrive, and Phoebe begins to levitate just as the boyfriend pulls the lady up.
I was a little confused by the action of the scene. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, it's a lot going on, and it's a little messy.
it was just, I just needed it a little bit more streamlined. Yeah. But I get it. Listen, I get it.
Prue grabs Phoebe's ankle and pulls her back down. But at first, I thought Phoebe was levitating and Prue was grabbing her ankle, and like she was levitating Prue with her. I was like, oh, they're flying up like Mary Poppins.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm glad. Yeah. I'm glad you're here to decipher this.
Right. Because that's what I thought was happening at first. I'm like, oh wait, no, that's not what's happening. Okay. Like, I misread this. But yeah, so she's safe, and she's like, oh no, my boyfriend's not bad. He's not an asshole. He was just teaching me kung fu, and I lost my balance and fell off the window. Like,
yeah, sure, Jan. Okay.
Yeah, enabler. Yeah.
Okay. Like, girl, here's a number to a social worker by the name of Paige Matthews.
Yeah, South Bay Social Services.
I love that you know that.
So yeah, she's safe. Cool. And then Attilak, it's cool because every time Attilak is on stage, like he's there, the writing changes, the tone shifts, and it's
to like a third person perspective almost.
Yeah. And I really kind of appreciate
I mean, this
that.
is third person, excuse me, but I mean like in terms of like more like a grander look at things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where it's a very close third, and then it becomes more of an ominous third.
Right. The language is different, and it's described in things that, you've seen it from his perspective. And it's cool. I like it. But he remarks on the prose. He's like, I like being wind. I can like get anywhere, invisible. I can, see things. And then
like, is this where it says like the witches sensed me, but they don't know my name or my power or something like that? Exactly. They don't know what to call me. Boo, ha, 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 ha. And
like, I've got the upper hand. Yeah. Like ever since Tremaine released me from that stone. So we learned that Tremaine is the one that kind of triggered his release. And
yeah, so don't say I wish around any like stones that are ancient is the moral of the story thus far.
Exactly.
Have we gotten to the point yet where Phoebe has said that she felt debilitated from all these visions? Have we gotten there yet?
She might have said it, but I know she gets worse and worse. So I know
Yeah, she gets worse and worse. And I know they're like, Phoebe, girl, sit down at the mansion. I think maybe this was in an earlier chapter that Phoebe's like, the visions are coming at such a fast pace. I know I had wished for, my power to expand, but like this is really taking a toll on me. And it sort of snowballed from when Phoebe got a vision and she felt faint. And they were like, "Are you okay?" And she goes, "No, it's fine. Like I used to not eat in New York." And again, I want to go back to what we said earlier about how they are sourcing these character histories and making it, relevant to them. And even Prue, who was like the most reluctant to welcome Phoebe back, was like, "Oh, really? You were starving? I didn't know that." Yeah. And I just love that. I mean, again, what Diana Gallagher is doing here, she's just connecting so many dots, and I just appreciate that, especially Phoebe's history in New York. Girl, she was probably in New York not more than 3 years ago, right? At this point, still fresh, and so I like that they did that little call out.
The very human moments are always very appreciated in any of these things. So yeah.
And I also call this era of WB television like, let's go to the college library to do research, because that was a big thing with Buffy. All of a sudden now they're on campus, and I thought it was funny, and maybe I didn't pick up this part. Did they even mention like, let's look at the Book of Shadows first? Because they automatically went to the campus.
Right. They did not. They did. They only went to the Book of Shadows one time, and they give up on it pretty quick. So
they're like, and they also talk about Grams a lot in the narrative. And I thought that was really lovely about, Phoebe has this flashback. I think maybe it's in chapter 7, but Phoebe talks about, which we're going to talk about next, but it's where Phoebe talks about being a little girl and wearing these patent leather shoes, and Grams, being like, "Oh no, you can't go out in the mud with them." And she did, but she cleaned them. But Grams was able to find the rag with the mud.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I thought it was just there were so many endearing moments in this book, and I have to tell you, like, you have turned me into a fan of these novelizations.
Oh, I'm glad! Yay!
Yay! So, is it me? It's chapter 7.
Chapter 7. It's you. Yep.
Okay. Prue finds nothing on the stone in the books because, college campus library wouldn't have that. But they're like, let's go to P3, and it's crowded. And walking through P3, Phoebe gets another vision of people she's bumping into, and all the girls, all the people. Like poor Phoebe. Give Alyssa Milano a break here, guys. Come on. All the girls felt a chill at some point, and Rick, the bartender who Piper had referred to earlier in the book, arrives and volunteers to help out with the charity event. And he kisses Phoebe's hand, and she has a vision of his skull getting bashed in. I'm sorry, reading your notes verbatim. I totally missed that it was his skull getting bashed in. I know he was going to get mugged and he was going to get Allie, but like,
it was so graphic. Some of these things, I'm like, ooh, I would not want to see this. This is like horror movies type stuff. Like, this is crazy.
And so Phoebe's like, girls, we got to talk about something. And she tells them what's going to happen with Rick. And I believe Piper and Prue are like, no, stay here, Phoebe. You're not coming. And so they go into the alleyway where he's going to get into a fight, which, by the way, like alleyways and Charmed, like I do not, in the Charmed universe, I am not walking down an alley, no. Especially if there's a well-known club, Site Barrel. But, so the scene unfolds as Phoebe foretold, and Rick is confronted by a gang or people who
I don't really know. Yeah, they just don't.
I don't know how muggings, happen in San Francisco, but like, see, he's confronted by the enemies, and then Prue comes in and flings the murder weapon away, and the other boys flee after seeing Rick's amazing fighting skills. I love your narrations here. So Phoebe suggests that maybe she talks to one of her professors, and Prue goes off and like tries to get an appointment for him. And I thought it was really funny how Phoebe was like, "Oh yeah, he actually went crazy after he got tenure." Right. I love how dismissive this is. And by the way, it's like It's like only if you were a fan of WB narratives can you start seeing how they connect these plots and stuff like that. Like, yeah, our crazy on-campus professor, and what he like wrote like best-selling books and stuff like that, but he's being dismissed as crazy. And that's the old Shakespearean ideology, by the way, which is the crazy people are actually not crazy. They've just known and seen things that normal people don't.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it's Professor Rubin?
Yes, Professor Rubin.
Professor Rubin. Oh, you have it right here in your notes. Yes, Professor Rubin. And Prue is going to go see him and talk to him, but they agree that Phoebe is way too weak and she needs to be quarantined in the mansion. And I think they did use the word quarantine. That's not.
They did.
Your wonderful, beautiful notes here. Like they actually use the word quarantine, and that's a word I notice now all the time. But that's where we end with chapter 7.
So now we're at chapter 8. Prue is going to meet crazy old Professor Rubin, who's not really crazy. And they confine him to like the basement. They put him down in the basement, like really like shady, like lighting and everything. Like,
how do you note the lighting?
She notices that he happens to be an expert on cults because he wrote a best-selling book about cults.
I love how a best-selling author who has tenure at this university is also put in the basement.
Yeah,
I'm just
saying. Right. It's like, okay, how wonderful that we treat these people. Prue shows him the picture of Tremaine and he scoffs. He's like, I detest the man. I will not vote for him. Are you with him?
And by the way, and everyone keeps saying over and over again in this, like, oh yes, these are great photos. Like, like the editor's going to love them. Even Steven's going to love them. But like crazy old professor's like, I hate him.
Right. It's good. I just get a fun little moment there. I love it. Prue's like, no, it's not. I'm not here for him. Look at the photos. Look at the stone. He's like, oh, well, this changes things. Take it to my desk. Come in here. And he studies the photos. And he's like, this looks like the stone of Atulak. According to legend, Atulak had the power to twist prayers, but he was cursed into the stone by a woman who could manipulate the elements. Prue's like, oh, a witch. Okay, cool. And it's like, not Storm or anything, just a witch.
Just a witch.
And Prue comes home and she fills her sisters in, and he's like, Professor Rubin told me everything I need to know. So let's go check the Book of Shadows and see if this Atulak guy is in there. But they like give up looking. Like, it's not showing us where to go, and I can't find anything, so I guess it's not in here. they spend like almost no time at the book whatsoever.
Remind me, what is the official canon with the Book of Shadows? Because I think in the comics they mention it updates itself. Like I think there's a scene in the comics, and I haven't read the comics in a couple of years, but like that, they can flip through and they're like, oh, there's a new entry that wasn't there before. And even Graham's at the end of Forever Charmed, at the end of the series, says like, I can't believe how big the book has gotten. At the time I assumed it's because Graham's would eventually fill in a lot of information because it's Graham's, but does the book update itself? Like it just seems weird that Athelok wouldn't have kind of been. I appreciate that it's not, because right. I hate that Deus Ex Machina, but like why wasn't it there? Oh.
I'm actually planning a bonus episode going over the whole lore of the Book of Shadows, so it's very fitting that you mentioned this.
Oh, okay. Well, then no spoilers. No spoilers.
But yeah, there's lots of things to think about with that because it's kind of inconsistent, and yeah. So in that bonus episode, I think we're going to get into it more, and I'll tell you when that's out, so you can check it out. Phoebe remembers that she wished her power was stronger when she was watching the news, and now she's hypersensitive. So it's probably, she's like, oh, you know what? I bet you it was my wish. If it's this Athelak guy who does wishes, I bet you that's why. And so Prue stares at her photos again, and she adjourns the meeting to the kitchen. She's like, you know what? I have to check something. And so she's like, come with me, you guys.
I love it. I can actually picture that. Like, come with me, guys. And then walk. I'm also probably thinking of like the season 3 bloopers where they keep redoing the scene over and over again, and all three of them keep walking together. So that's kind of like what I'm envisioning here. That leads directly into chapter 9, where Prue has all her photos laid out, noting that the reason for the defect is not from her film.
Yeah.
Good job, Prue. Yes, you're actually a really great photographer. But you know what? I appreciate that proactive nature for someone like Prue. Like Prue would check off everything first. And, I think it's easy for us in today's world to be like, yeah, there's like a smoke behind there. Like this is a demon, obviously, but like they're still experiencing this. They're only 3 years into their lives as witches. And, like they have to check those right there. So she presumes that she captured Atulak being released, and she is absolutely right. Prue realized it happened after Tremaine said his wish to not have to run against Noel Jefferson, or Leon Jefferson, as I have been calling him in my head. And then Prue and Phoebe go to warn Noel in the office building. And like they're like hanging out by like his bathroom or something like that, right? Like they're trying to get to him, and his security guard's like, "Yo, guys, this is not happening." Athalak's not happy about being found out and uses his windy body to slice a flagpole. But this is great. This is absolutely great because we get a one-of-a-kind Prue power to this book only, where she creates a telekinetic shield to protect them as they enter the building. And there you go. I mean, that has never. What did you think of that? Because I would love to see that executed IRL.
I know. I was going to ask you that too, because it's very important. It's a really great moment for Prue, and I think it's totally feasible that she should be able to do this. Yeah, create that like force field, that shield.
And I'm picturing her doing it like this. You know what I mean? Like how the Prue Halliwell stand like that, or maybe even something like how Grams used to do it like that.
Yeah, and I can picture it like her telekinesis kind of emanating from every aspect of her body. Like it's just like
beautiful.
Oh yeah,
kind of like Wanda. And did you watch WandaVision?
Of course I did. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, listen, this is our first Kiki IRL.
That's true.
Like, so I'm just picturing her like that, like the way you said it, like You know.
And it's a
there. Shannen Doherty got there first. Elizabeth Olsen.
So yeah, this is something that I would have been all about. I'm glad it happened in this book. I think it's something that we could have seen in the show and would have been really epic. So
Prue was supposed to have her powers evolve. I was seeing the season 1 interviews where Prue talked about being able to reverse, the rotation of the Earth. Like, was that ever something that was supposed to happen, or was Shannen Doherty just being facetious? That her powers were going to escalate to a point that she could actually manipulate time, which seems more like a Piper power.
I think she was being facetious in that interview because she's like, she's goofy like that. She likes that stuff. I don't know if it was ever part of the actual lore, but if you think about the comics, she could have totally done that in the comics. Yeah.
Well, especially Piper in the comics, when she freezes something after Prue and Paige meet, and she freezes like all of like San Francisco. I forgot if it was a world, but certainly San Francisco. But okay, so Phoebe casts a spell to keep Athalak out, and Prue calls Piper at the manor. Piper is going to make a charm to ward off the spirit wind, which we've seen. And weakened by Prue's shield, Athalak escapes through the vent. He loves his vents and waits nearby Noel Jefferson's office to strike.
Like, I'm going to get you.
Girlfriend's coming for Noel Jefferson's tracks.
Yes. Piper meets her sisters at the office bathroom. So, Prue and Phoebe were like contained in the bathroom, hiding out. And Piper just comes to get them. She's like, okay, I made these charms for you that will protect you from Athalak. Yeah. So, and then this is when the security guard catches them because they leave the bathroom.
There you go. Okay, I'm sorry. I jumped ahead. I'm sorry.
But they're like, we're going to go to Noel's office now and we're going to get in there. And they find that the office, the elevator can only be, you have to have a key card to run it, or you have to be during normal business hours. And they stayed in the bathroom too long that everything closed. And so they're like, oh, we're looking for Noel. He's like, no. He's like, he left 30 minutes ago for a campaign headquarters. You need to get out of here. And so like, fine. So they leave, and Piper drives home while Prue and Phoebe in their car go on the hunt for Noel at the campaign headquarters. So, and this is really weird. While they're driving, they contemplate the potential of finding a man. Like, they're both talking about, like, oh, I would love this person, and Phoebe should go.
Well, Phoebe, Cole, I get it. It's a continuity thing. I wonder how this book must have been written way in advance. I think initially Cole was only supposed to be a one-off, right?
Yeah.
He was supposed to be a one-off. And so this book was probably written 8 months ahead, and they probably had a vague idea of what was going to happen. Just knowing book publishing and that scheduling for book publishing, she probably had a vague idea of what was happening this season, but didn't know that Cole was going to stay because that got changed.
Exactly. In episode 8, I mentioned, like, they say it takes roughly a year from conception to printing, so it makes sense why there'd be discrepancies like that. So, yeah, interesting.
Prue, though, was like on fire. She was dating people left and right by the end of season 3.
Yeah, all those little dates that went nowhere.
Oh. I really like the guy who was on Glory Days, and he was Rachel's boyfriend too, and Charmed Friends. The one who they thought was her stalker, but it turned out to be Abby.
Oh,
can we talk about Abby for a second?
So you're about Sean, Abby,
Sean. Yeah, I think she went on 2 dates with Sean, right? I think they eventually did 2 dates, but come on, Abby was a real star, star of that episode.
She was,
but when she puts on that wig, that ugly ass wig, thinking that's Shannen Doherty with like the little side braid there.
I know.
No, Abby, girl, let's sit down. I
Prue's
get it.
Prue's lucky shirt. That she wore, and be careful what you wish for, which she died in already, but it's fine. So at headquarters, they get to the Noel's place, and they're blocked by the 2 guards there. And Phoebe can't get a vision off of them, so they just leave.
They're checking out. We're done. So next chapter 11. The next morning, Phoebe says she can't go to the bazaar because her premonitions are draining. And again, we've seen this earlier in the book. They're draining her. It's debilitating. The power is growing not at an organic rate, which in season 5, we saw that her premonitions had grown and they were physically hurting her, but she could still kind of keep up with it because that was more of a natural growth. This is obviously a result of her wishing and Athalok being like, all right, witch, here you go. Prue believes that Athalok's first wish is his do or die because it's taking longer to grant. And they plan to try to get Phoebe to Noelle Jefferson so she can get a vision of how Athalok plans on taking him out of the election. So I thought that was really great. I think we see the sisters being extremely proactive. I think one of the things I loved about Charmed, and I think we see it in this book, is that they use the situations to their advantage and the answer is always before them. And I actually try to use that in my everyday life. Like if I have something I need to do, I'm like, well, let me look at my landscape. Where can I connect the dots here? So Charm really affects the way I live my life.
I love that. Yeah. Chapter 12, the day of the charity event. It's fun here. The thing we've been talking about this entire book.
And they were going to have a band. The band that's going to do it for free, as long as they can see some of the big shot celebrities here. So this is
exposure. Hard crackers.
Hard crackers. So this is like a star-studded event for them.
Yes. Oh, hard crackers. I love it.
Oh, hard crackers.
So they get there and they scope out where their P3 booth is going to be, and Piper gets it all set up. Phoebe notices the amusement park / carnival on the other side of the picnic, kind of reminiscing about when they were kids. She's like, oh, innocent times. Oh yeah, so in the Prue Phoebe, they go to the cool kids tent because it's a tent for the press and guests only. So this is like their VIP access tent where there's donuts and they want to get the donuts.
You got that press pass for 415, Prue.
Yep. And she's like, just pretend you're my assistant. They'll never know. And so Phoebe's like, all right, I'm your assistant. And they make an impression on the attendant. She's like, this is only for, press and guests, right? Do you know who I am? Like,
I love that. Well, I mean, it's Shannen Doherty and it's Prue Halliwell. I mean, she did get an obituary in the San Francisco Times. I mean, that's pretty big.
It's very Gail Weathers will find a way.
I love Gail Weathers so much and Courtney Cox. Do you follow Blainer Things?
No, what is that?
A toy influencer, and he loves Scream. I'm sorry, this is a sidebar, but he loves Scream, and he loves Courtney Cox. He loves her as Monica on Friends, and he also loves Gail Weathers quite a bit. So, Oh my God, Courtney Cox should have had a guest spot on this.
I know.
I mean, no, but she got that Friends fame at that point. They couldn't afford her. And she could barely afford their clothes by the end.
And honestly, she always kind of reminded me of Shannen. They both had like that similar kind of raspiness to their voice.
Yeah, and like the dark hair and the blue eyes. Mm-hmm. Well, I know Shannen has green eyes. When I looked on the Wikipedia of this, they were like, well, Prue doesn't have blue eyes. They're more greenish. I was like,
yeah, it's so minute. I mean, but she does have green eyes. And every single book so far has mentioned her having blue eyes. I'm like, at least they're consistent.
So don't you know who I am? Yes, Shannen Doherty, we do.
Yeah. So she gets in there, and then she leaves Phoebe in the tent to hang out. She's like, look for Noel Jefferson to get here, and take your chance when you get it. So she leaves Phoebe there alone, and Prue goes to pay Piper a visit, check out her booth, and she's gonna like shoot some stuff. Here to be a photographer, so I'm gonna shoot some stuff too. Piper is there in her booth. She's like, looks good. My staff are wonderful. They're doing a great job. Rick is still showing an interest in Phoebe. She's like, maybe you'll see her later. I don't know. And then Phoebe back in the tent, she has a brief encounter with an old actor. She's like, oh, you seem nice. She's like, don't go, there, check your dentures before you make a speech because they might fall out. So she got permission. And then Noel Jefferson finally arrives on the scene, and she's like, ooh, I gotta get to him. But then people are like, ooh, Noel Jefferson. So this crowd gathers, and she kind of works her way. Well, I don't know how you can get through a crowd avoiding touching people, but she does. And she gets close to Noel Jefferson. But then as she's going to get to him, it's time for your speech. So he gets called to go to speech. She's like, no, I have to touch you first. and so Phoebe acts fast. She makes a lunge for him. She's like, I'm going to get you. And then a small boy gets in her way. And she's like, oh! And so she's taken back, and she gets the permission of the boy. And the boy is like screaming as Noel falls from the Ferris wheel. So she got lucky that the boy had a connection to Noel's future.
I mean, one would assume there's a higher power at play there. That's what I like how they do it. Oh, and did you mention a Ferris wheel?
Ferris wheel
right there.
Oh.
What? Yeah. So Phoebe, obviously, rightfully so, because she has been talking about it and bitching about it this entire book, feels very weak after that last premonition, and Prue comes to aid her. They go to Piper on the other side of the tent, and Phoebe explains, I just saw this little boy with Noel falling from a Ferris wheel. And Stephen Tremaine arrives because, of course, boyfriend has to have his big entrance, and tells Prue he likes the pictures she took. No shit. You know what I love about it's unanimous. Stephen, get on board. Everyone knows that Prue took great pictures of you. We get it. Prue is a natural, prodigious photographer. But she tries to keep the conversation short, and Tremaine goes to shake Piper's hand, but bumps into Phoebe. Phoebe slips over. No. I'm sorry. I just love your narration. And Piper catches her, and Prue asks Tremaine to leave them. Phoebe gets a premonition of the Armageddon nuclear holocaust. I mean, this is it's literally scaled up. That's it. The stakes are high here. And I'm picturing that premonition from Apocalypse Now. What was it called?
Apocalypse Not.
Apocalypse Not. So the vision Phoebe has in that. Mm-hmm. Phoebe demands her sisters to go make sure Noel lives to get elected. And Prue and Piper go to the amusement park, and they stake out the Ferris wheel. They hear the sound of Atholach in the wind, which I'm thinking, is it, I guess it's supposed to be like a Shax level, chime if you were watching this.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Like that. I mean, that's the impression I'm getting here. Mm-hmm. But are protected by their charms. Thank you, Piper. Noel Jefferson and the little boy, who does have a relationship to him that we will find out later on, Paul, which is a great name, gets seated on the Ferris wheel, and Prue yells out, wait! His guards are alerted and want to keep her away. I don't know why you would ever want to keep Shannen Doherty away, but... Right. Whatever. The operator goes to load the next bucket, and Piper freezes the scene as they sneak onto the ride. Time begins again, and the wheel has started. Sensing Atholach, Prue drops her protection charm onto Noel's bucket and telekinetically flings it inside by his feet. A coupling on Noel's bucket broke, and his seatbelt was torn. Oh yeah, I remember that scene. Yeah. And Noel slipped out of the bucket.
So the charm didn't work very well, apparently.
The charm did not work well at all. I mean, listen, they're still novices at this point. I mean, it
only works for witches, apparently.
Paul screamed, and Prue held Noel with the power and guided him back. Noel grabbed the lap bar. They hold on as the bucket is brought back to the ground. With Noel Jefferson safe, Prue and Piper prepare for Atholach's wrath, hoping that Piper's charm will protect them. They felt the wind, but then it dissipated into nothing.
Phoebe watches the ordeal. She was out there. She saw the whole crazy action scene with the vertical bucket and him almost falling. She's like, whoa. But everything is safe. And then everyone is finding their bearings now on the ground. It's like, oh my God, are you okay? La, 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 la. So before they unload the rest of the buckets, they're making sure everything's set. And then Phoebe went in to be in place to greet your sister. So she moves up closer to the Ferris wheel. She wants to be there when they get off. On the way there, Phoebe bumps into a man. She gets no vision. And then Paul's mother, Lenore, because she remembers her from like almost passing out earlier. She's like, oh, I'm so happy to see you're okay. You are looking much better. And so she's talking to her, and she does not get a premonition off Lenore because Lenore is like touching her arm. She's like, oh, good to see you. And then Noel comes over to Phoebe because Lenore is actually like his sister. She's like, oh, that's cool. All right. And he is Paul's uncle. So it's like, hi, I'm Noel Jefferson. Oh, I'm Phoebe. And here are my sisters who are just getting off the Ferris wheel right now. This is Piper and Prue. And Noel looks at Prue. He's like, oh, you kept me from falling. I know it sounds strange, but it felt as if you were giving me the will and strength to hang on. I'm like, oh, yes.
That's so beautiful.
It's so beautiful.
Such a beautiful quote. And the way you delivered it was way better than my memory.
That was the direct quote. And I'm like, I love that. It's because that's something we can always learn. Prue gives you the will and the strength to hold on. I think that is so appropriate for everything that she did on the show and for everything that she did in these books.
Oh my God, I'm going to cry now. Why are you doing this? 20 years. I'm still not over her death.
I know. We never got that closure ever. So
never. Then
after that, he wants to book Prue for some of his own headshots. So she's like, talk to my people. I'll talk to your people. It'll be good.
I love how you're like, yeah, it's like, book me. You saved my life. Book me for some headshots. And she's like, oh yeah, I will.
Right. Yeah, I got you covered. Yeah. Just then, Piper's eyes get covered by Leo. He's like, guess who? I'm like, Leo. He's talked about this entire book. This is actually his first appearance in a book. He hasn't been in any book so far until now.
Oh, wow. That's weird. They're 10 books in.
I know. It's crazy. He was mentioned in a couple of them, but this is the first time he's actually actually shows up. It's okay. Exciting. So Piper is thrilled that Leo is there, and they kiss. And Piper plans to ride so many things with him. Oh, we're gonna ride so many things, Leo.
I can't even right now. Like they are. God, I love how horny all of them are all the time.
Yeah, she'll ride his thing after they ride carnival things, and that's their day. Phoebe goes and she's gonna have a date with Rick finally after all this talk about Rick. So that she's gonna have a date with Rick, but she tells him, I have another date coming with us too, so don't feel too special. And her other date is actually her old man actor friend that she had a denture premonition of, and so he comes in. Rick's like starstruck. He's like, "That's Roy Hansen. He's the famous movie man." And
is he just purely fictional?
He's fictional. I don't think. Well, I don't know. Okay. I don't actually.
I don't know. I googled. I didn't see anything.
Okay, I think he's a fictional actor. But yeah, he's like this famous cowboy western guy, and he's like, okay.
Sure. He's like the Clint Eastwood, for lack of a better. Something like that.
After that, Phoebe laughs in glee. She's like, this is such a happy ending. She's like, Affleck's gone. I have people who love me. Leo's back. She's like, this is good. We saved the day. Everything's fine. Lovely. And that's the end of the book.
That's it. But it was perfect.
Do you have any final thoughts that we didn't talk about yet?
No, I think we went pretty thorough into it. I loved it. Like I said, you made me a fan of these tie-in books. I think they are a lot of fun. They are easy to read. And as someone who used to work in book publishing, a couple of years ago, I was in publishing for about like a decade. I would have to read like a manuscript a night. So I'm telling you, I sat down and I probably read this. My first reading of this, I probably finished it in 2-3 hours. It's an easy read. It's fun. And it's not bad. Just because it's an easy read doesn't mean it's bad at all. It's a fun read. And you're not going to want to put it down because it feels like you're actually watching an episode.
Cool. I thought it was funny. The demon in this book is made out of wind, and this is Prue's last book.
Yeah. Well, no, so they feel chill. Like I just felt a chill. Phoebe, how are you? So there was that. And then that they could sense him every time he was coming. Yeah. Like, did they hear a little chime like how they did with Shax? Or I don't know.
I think it's funny that they never actually got concrete evidence or proof that what they were fighting was Athalok. They only proceeded based off assumptions and strong theories. Yeah. So, I mean, they happen to be right, but it's like, that's crazy, actually, when you think about it.
Well, that's why I think like they could do their research. They could talk to the crazy professor, and then the Book of Shadows would solidify all of that for them.
Right.
Because what if it wasn't? What if it was another demon who just snuck into that snow?
Right. And sometimes there's demons that are very similar. I mean, we just talked about Shax and him. They're very similar. It could be anything that's invisible. I did think the climax was very Final Destination.
You're right. That would be a byproduct of what was going on in like Hollywood at the time. Final Destination was around there, I think.
I was disappointed in the way that he failed. Just because his wish wasn't granted, he just kind of dissolved into nothingness. I would have liked a final showdown. I would have liked, him to come back because like mad and have like a final like real vanquish.
I thought about that too. Here's the thing about that, and I feel like this was a very character-driven story. You know what I mean? Like even though there was action. But I was like, I get it. This isn't one of the, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. These tie-in books are supposed to be, enhanced stories. They're not supposed to change the game of the series. A sort of like uneventful vanquish, like his plans didn't succeed, and now he just vanquishes into the wind, like Shax, or not like Shax, but how they assumed Shax died,
right?
When they said the spell, when Phoebe said the spell. So yeah, I mean, it was fine. Like how can I say this in a way that doesn't sound condescending? Because I'm just putting on like my reader, like editorial hat here. I don't know what I was supposed to take away from the book other than this is fun and Phoebe's going on a date and, people should know who Shannen Doherty is and Piper and Leo get to be together at the end. Yay. You know what I mean? Like I didn't think too much about like the vanquishing scene. I would have loved an epic vanquishing scene because I thought the story was great.
Yeah. Okay. So now we're going to move on to put that in my canonical hat.
Canonical.
Talk about if we would like to see this canon be an episode and what prevents it from actually being canon. Like what are the problems?
Well, no mention of Cole. That's why. Apparently Shannen Doherty's eyes are an issue.
Oh yeah, so they say the reason Piper and Leo were allowed to be together because of Piper's broken heart threatened to weaken the power of 3. That was from the fandom. So that was it's because she was too sad to fight is the reason they gave for the book.
Okay, great.
but that wasn't the real reason. So we got that. I like that they're consistent with the notion that time moves differently up there.
Yep, that's perfect.
Oh, here's one. They say that Phoebe got her levitation power from a vanquished baddie, and it wasn't natural.
Oh, but that's a good one.
I'm like, that is not true.
But I wonder if that was the original plan that was given to the author.
I mean,
and then it just changed because it's like, no, like but no, like that season 1 episode, they went to go strike Phoebe and she just naturally like levitated. So
yeah, Phoebe got her first levitation power in the beginning of season 3. That's when it first manifested. But they did have her. She did fly. Like she got the dragon power
from the genie. Oh, well, now that's really interesting. Do we think she kept that power secretly and it just manifested in season 3 and it's a byproduct of that was just in her already?
I don't think it was. I think that was just coincidence. I feel like because once they vanquished the dragon demon and the genie was put back in the bottle, all the wishes should have reversed. So yeah. I think that theory has to be debunked. Although I
debunked that theory.
Yes, but it is funny that when her premonition first grew, she used to only see the future, and then she saw the past. She's like, yes, but somehow I thought I was going to get to fly. So she mentioned that in season 1 that she kind of foreshadowed that.
There you go.
Which is interesting. But then also in season 2, Morality Bites, they see how she killed Cal Green. And
she levitated.
She levitated. So it was kind of.
She had electricity. And she said, like, what did I do? Premonition him to death.
Right. So we have seen that it was foreshadowed a long time. So I do think it was something that was innately in her. It's not something she got from the demon. It's just something that was
that's fair.
Kind of becoming. Yeah.
Okay. Fair.
I think the demon is kind of scary because he's invisible. He's very much like the Troxa demon, except he's less of a little bitch than Troxa was.
Well, so is that your question? I'm just trying to think of what you asked. So what prohibits this from being in canon or being an actual television show?
Right.
I would say the demon too, because it was too passive of a demon. Like I think for the time you would have needed a monster of the week, like a little bit more of a concrete, like angry demon, not just something that's just floating around. But maybe like the shocker demon where it was just electricity, maybe they could do something like that, but with wind, or they could have done something like that, but with wind. And, the story was more focused on Paige moving in with the girls. And maybe this is more focused on, the girls having their own personal, story. And then that demon sort of in the background.
If this were an episode, I would probably be a little annoyed. just because there was a lot of rigmarole in the beginning. I think we're halfway through the book before they even know evil is afoot. It's more just like, and so I feel like it would take a long time to get to the action. And because we already have so many episodes that have to do with genies and wishes and desires, and that it would kind of be unnecessary. But it still is fun to read about in here. So
it was a fun read, and I would streamline everything with Stephen Germain. I would have made him more of a prominent figure in the book, because he's just really there for the photo shoot, and then that's it. And it comes back at the end. So I would have made him a little bit more of a prominent figure, or maybe overtly. I know it was hinted at with Phoebe, with Prue, being a love interest for him, but I would have leaned into that a little bit more, especially given the timeline in season 3.
Yeah. Now we're going to go to Ram Time.
Should we try a spell?
Why not? Let's try a spell.
In the wind, I sing this rhyme. Bring death before me, before my time.
You've really got to lay off the rhyming, Prue.
Wonderful. Witty, but wordy.
I did the rhyme. I will do the time. Good night.
I'm going to have you read the spell. We only have one spell in this book.
Okay. Fire, water, wind, and air, casting cosmic primal brine, bid Athalok's wind, beware, no passage through this door I bind.
Yes. So how do you feel about that spell?
Forgettable.
Yeah. It's
forgettable.
It's likely the intent is like she's got lots of energy, but it's
I don't know. And just let me do it again without messing up Athalok's name.
Okay.
Fire, water, wind, and air, casting cosmic primal brine, bid Athalok's wind beware, no passage through this door I bind.
It's a little clunky.
It's clunky. It's not good. Listen, look, Diana Gallagher, you are a phenomenal writer. I enjoyed your book so much. Maybe writing spells for the Charmed Ones, not your thing. Sorry.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So it's just there. It's not the greatest.
What did you think?
Yeah, same. It's like I feel like there's you can tell like the intent is there. She's trying to be like powerful and mystical. And this is supposed to be a spell that Phoebe kind of came up with on the spot. So I guess I expect it to be clunky, but it's
I would have said
good.
Fire, water, wind, and air, cosmic primal, beware. You know what I mean? Like I would have leaned into that a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. There's two. It's just weird. There's too many words. It doesn't have the flow that it needs to really be a winner.
No passage through this door. I'm sorry, but you're a bore. Right there. That's where I would have ended. That's how I would have vanquished Athalok.
Yep. All you need is 2 lines. Just something simple.
No.
Oh, okay. So now this is the best baddie time.
Seems almost anticlimactic after all this time, doesn't it?
It was the only way to get their powers.
And now I want yours.
Darkest forces, let it be. Hear my plea, bring life to me.
You can't run! Frozen! In fear!
Best Baddie!
So I'm going to go over my best baddie rankings, and then we're going to just go over who we have so people can make their own list and turn them in at the end and see who's going to be the ultimate winner next episode. My number 10 is Charlotte Logan, the spirit from Haunted by Desire that tries to kill Betty and Phoebe and stuff. Then I have number 9, Mitchell, the National Geographic journalist from Soul of the Bride that was like shapeshifting into a green demon thing. And then we have Jeremy, Jeremy, the first warlock. 7 is Lascaris, the powerful warlock that made Prue kiss everybody. And then Diana Jones is the druid from Legacy of Merlin that wanted to have a baby. Olga is number 5. She's the gypsy that had one of the Romani Ruby and used the clown twin to get it. Justin Morgan is the leader of the Covenant New Sun is number 4. 3, Gabrielle Toussaint, the voodoo lady that was just really kind of deceptive and evil. Then I have number 2, Fallcroft, the time traveling demon from Whispers from the Past. And actually, Athalok made my number 1 spot.
Really?
Yes. I
feel so honored.
I really liked Athalok. I mean, because he was kind of a passive demon, but I feel like I got to know him. Like the way they can move his molecules around to slice and affect the physical world was really kind of cool.
No, he was very ethereal and introspective.
Yeah,
I appreciated that.
He was profound and enigmatic to me. He had that mystery, and I found him to be really interesting to read about. So he's my number 1. We also have ones that I didn't make the list. We have Hugh Montgomery, the creepy sex offender. Then there's Sacha, the actual twin brother clown. Nikos, Hades' son, and then Dylan Thomas, the warlock that dates Piper and Prue and tries to get them to catfight against each other. So those people did not make my list at all. But if they're on your list, they can definitely move up. And turn them in at wordsofwitchespod@gmail.com, and we'll see who is the ultimate winner next episode. That'd be fun.
Send it in.
Okay, now we're going to our
10, 10, 10 to 10, 10, 10. Here's 10 things.
10 things segment where we're going to talk about our favorite Prue moments. Woo! Yes! What we've all been waiting for, because we love Prue. This is her last book, and I'm going to take the moment to just really enjoy her and love her.
I'm so heartbroken. So 20 years in May. 20 years.
Okay, do you want to go first?
Okay, so my 5th moment that I absolutely loved Prue in was in Death Takes a Hollowell, where she says, spirits of wind, land, and sea converge to set the angel free. In the wind, I send this rhyme, bring death before me, before my time. And then she's like, I know you can hear me, show up. And then death, sort of manifests in front of her. And he goes, oh, what did I do? Did I take, your friend? Oh, no, it was Mummy. Look, those little eyes, of course, Mummy. And I think it really showed Prue's relationship to Patty. It showed her relationship to death. It showed how she wanted to conquer death. And death says it himself. And it's like, you think by somehow beating me, you would resolve any of your internal issues, but I'm inevitable. So I thought it was such a great learning and growing experience for Prue.
You lock up your tears and angrily steel yourself against me as if I were the ultimate evil. You are the ultimate evil. Anyway.
Oh my God, I cannot believe you just did that. Yes. I love it when they confront each other. And of course, later on when Death comes into the series, he would be like, I knew your sister, mm-hmm. and then Piper would also say, this looks nothing like Death. I should know Prue met him. So I think that shows that they have a very special relationship. And I was very appreciative of that moment.
Yes. Lovely. Yeah. That's such a good one for her. Yeah. I kind of try to pick ones that try to find the underrated ones. And
good. I got mostly the iconic ones in my head. So okay, that's cool. Perfect. That's perfect. Cool. We'll balance each other out.
Okay. So my number 5 is probably a moment that everybody knows. It is iconic, but it is very simple. It's in Blinded by the White Letter when Natalie unfreezes and she's like, Piper froze you. She's like, she what? Yep. Anytime Shannen Prue smiles, I just get overwhelmed with joy.
She's gorgeous.
Yes.
And those eyes and that smile.
It's so nice to see Prue happy and Prue light, because especially when you think about how she's very stern and very serious and she's very dramatic, which is definitely a big part of her too. But when you see her just have fun, mm-hmm. it's just a really great time to have joy and feel good about it.
And so 2 things. One, I've seen the bloopers for that scene.
So like Piper having sex, it's like, she does the same thing with Leo, and she always has sex with Leo. I
love that. You took the words literally out of my mouth. And then 2, in that episode as well, she looks down and she's here like, after they're being like scolded for their clothes, like you can't wear any more skimpy, whatever. And Prue's
braless, strapless, fearless attire.
She's there like, okay, well, I have nothing to wear. So I agree with you. I think Shannen really shined in that episode in terms of her humor and being a little bit more lighthearted.
Yes.
So my 4th one is when Prue goes to see Viserys. And she's feeling what I loved about the scene is, and if the listeners just don't remember this episode, it's when Prue gets the empath powers, and he's the demon who took the powers, and he's feeling overwhelmed by it. He can't manage it because he's a demon, but Prue doesn't know this yet. And Prue sees him in pain. And I think we see that Prue is naturally empathetic. And you can see her like just calm down everything. And he's here like, I know you're afraid something's coming for you and you don't think you're going to be able to beat it. And then Prue's like, no, let me help you. And then she takes the power, the empath powers from him. I just thought it was great foreshadowing. I mean, sadly, it was good foreshadowing that Shannon's character would die. But I just thought the way it played out, and obviously later on in the episode, we see her being a badass with the empath powers and being able to astral project and still be awake at the same time. And they kind of like smile at each other and then they converge. I thought it was beautiful. I thought that was such a great Prue moment. But I love that actual initial scene.
And it gives you a look into what her powers could have been, stronger.
I can't even think about that. Anyways.
My number 4, it's another kind of trivial thing, but it means so much. This is during part of my past, and Phoebe is being haunted by the sexual offender ghost thing by Anton, and she's supposed to go to school the next day, and she offers to walk Phoebe to class, and she waits with her at her. I'm like, such a big sister thing to do.
Oh, I know.
She did the same thing with Piper when high school reunion. She's like, you want me to beat up your friends, beat up these bullies? I'll beat them up. And so she offers. She's really going to be that big sister, that someone who really cares for her sisters and will do whatever she can to keep them safe. And just those little moments, even if they're not fighting something crazy, something human, she's there for them still. So
I agree. I love that so much. That is, bravo. That is a perfect scene.
Yeah.
Okay. So my number 3 is when she's holding Sam in P3H2O and Sam is dying. And he looks out into the horizon and he sees Patty, and Prue's like, say hello for us. And I just thought that was just so beautiful. I mean, that's it. That's the scene. I just thought it was beautiful. Obviously, that episode opens up with her in that beautiful red crop top.
Yes.
At the lake campsite where her mom died. And I just thought it was really, I thought it was beautiful. It's a very heartwarming scene. And Finola Hughes looks beautiful. There.
Another X-Men connection with Finola Hughes.
I know you're absolutely. Yeah, no, I know. Girl, Finola, I'm obsessed with. She to me is a perfect Emma Frost. She was always a perfect Emma. And we've interviewed the majority of the cast from the Generation X movie. Finola seems to be on the list. Just saying.
Oh, see,
maybe. Great. What's your number 3?
Number 3. This is season 1, that 70s episode. When she's talking to little Prue, she goes, I have one too. And the little birthmark, and it's like so cute. So, it gives you she would be a good mom too. I
have one too. Like I love the way she's too.
I have one too. Yeah. Oh, so she nudges her cheeks and holds her hair and like it's so,
oh my God,
so cute.
I love that entire episode. That entire episode's beautiful.
It's a great episode.
And it's the first time we meet Patty and Grams, and we understand this family dynamic. It was just so beautiful. It was beautifully done. Okay, my number 2 is from the Charmed comic, and it's where Prue and Paige meet. And, Prue's like, I know this sounds odd. I'm your sister. And Paige is like, you look nothing like Prue. I've seen photos. Anyone who's listening hasn't read the comic. When Paige thinks, oh, this person is attacking me, and Prue is in the body of a witch named Patience, whose soul was taken by, I'm forgetting the character, the demon from
Karen,
who had come and taken the soul. So Prue is in the body of a witch named Patience. And so Paige is like, fine, I'll take you back to the mansion, but I got to warn you, Phoebe and Piper are going to freak out. And Prue just looks at her. She goes, I think I know exactly how they're going to react. And then, of course, when she arrives into the attic, Phoebe and Piper are there. And Piper's like, oh my God, Prue, I'd recognize that soul anywhere. And they all embrace.
Because in part of my past, they talk about how they can recognize their souls, the past
their souls. And that comes up over and over again later. Even when she sees Daryl later on, she's like, can't you recognize my soul?
Yeah.
I love that. I thought that was, I know there were some fishy rights with Shannen and Zenscope, and I'm glad they were able to resolve it and give us a really good Prue story.
Yeah. My number 2 is the fighting off Abby.
My God, that is iconic, Kevin.
Oh my gosh. Yes, that whole fight scene.
I love it. I love it. She's like, I'm Prue. We're my sisters. Like, I'm so perfect. I can blow off guys. He's not good for us. Like, I love that.
Yes. And what I like about it too, because it shows both Prue's strength and her vulnerability. And what, because Prue is injured. She's blinded and she is totally scared. This is like a horror movie. She's fighting this stalker off of her who's going to shoot her, and she's still holding her own, and it's terrifying, but it gives you that duality with Prue, and it's really nice to see that she does have a vulnerability, and you see her human side.
I think, and she looked so beautiful when she was photographing. Was it like this guy holding like a gecko or like a lizard or something, and Abby's like photographing her?
Oh yeah.
But like the angle they got Shannen at, and like her natural curious state, like
and
you see
zoom in.
Yeah, and the zoom in, you see that like Prue is just like very like vulnerable and just like a normal human being there, and like I loved it so much.
Mm-hmm.
And her lucky top that she wore at the season 2 finale.
Yes.
All right, number 1. I want to see if you can guess my number 1.
Oh my gosh! Because you can do like Which Proves It Anyway. You can do Miss Hellfire. You can do All Hell Breaks Loose. Is there any of those?
Yes, it is. So It is All Hell Breaks Loose when Prue saves Dr. Griffith. I thought that was beautiful. I think when she goes, no, specifically when she gets up and like, she's like, no, and she gets up and she pushes him out of the way and she takes the energy ball or the wind ball from Shax. I thought that was everything you love about Prue. She's assertive. She's empathetic. She is the leader, and she would give her life for an innocent. And we saw in an alternate, timeline that Dr. Griffith did not have their best interests at heart and would put on a toupee to talk bad about them to the news. Yeah. So the fact that Prue even dying for someone like that shows the kind of character she is. I mean, she didn't in the end die for him because obviously he died, but that's my number 1 Prue moment. I'm curious what yours is.
Okay. My number 1 is a particular scene, Astral Prue in Just Harried, when she talks to Phoebe.
Mm-hmm.
Because you learn about her inner desires, you learn about the things that she's proud of and the things she regrets. And she gave up her entire life to raise them, and she puts her own desires, her own life goals on hold to make sure that they're safe and make sure that they're taken care of. And and the thing that people don't realize that Astral Prue in the episode is the same blue sweater Prue from Which Prue Is It Anyway? So
I didn't know that. That's an interesting connection.
Yeah, in Which Prue Is It Anyway, you have the id, inner desire, and the super ego, which was the pink sweater Prue, and her ego was her normal self. So it's like those kind of 3 parts.
I feel like I've just gotten schooled. Yes.
And so this is that blue sweater Prue coming back and just trying to enjoy her life and find the things that she always was missing. And then I love that Phoebe tells Prue, she's like, Piper and I have strength and purpose in our lives, and you gave us that. And it's just like, yes.
It just feels that like season 3 was leaning towards Prue dying with all like the hints and stuff like that. Like It's easy to see, I don't know, like Prue's death was so, I felt some kind of closure with it because of all that foreshadowing in season 3 and then how they grieved in season 4. I gotta tell you, season 4, Piper grieving, I thought like I went through a horrible thing last year with the pandemic and losing a soul I love so much. And I rewatched the first half of season 4 because of Prue and Piper's relationship, and that scene where she's crying like, I need you, everything. She gave her sisters a strength. So yeah, I agree.
All the feels.
God, man, Jesus, why do you make me cry? It's like in the afternoon. For once, I'm not recording at like midnight, and I'm sober too. I'm drinking water.
What a change! I just finished my water, but yeah. So yeah, I'm glad we got to go over those. That was.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm such a fan of everything you do. And we'll talk more about the things you do in Power of X-Men because you're going to be my guest in like 2 minutes. But I just want to say I love the energy you put out there. And it's not surprising to me that you've built this wonderful, charmed community and your cosplay and everything. Like, it's such a pleasure to see you on my feed.
Oh, thank you. Before we end, I want to know if you, it's a tip for future white lighters, I call it.
I was out being a force of good in the universe.
A moral lesson that we could have learned. I know you said you didn't really find one before. But
I was like, I didn't really find a moral here. Don't leave your wife alone while you're up there and have her worrying the entire time. Yeah, if I don't know, if one of your sister-in-laws is like, there's something wrong with my camera, be like, no, there's nothing wrong with the camera. There's actually a demon. And you guys have this weird luck that everything and anything you interact with, there are demons. But I would also say, like, again, like what we said earlier, like these girls, whether it's some higher power at play or they're just naturally, gravitating towards things like this, like trust your instincts. Mm-hmm. And I think Prue trusted her instincts, Phoebe, everyone in this. Like, I think that would be the tip for future white lighters. What about you? What would you get?
I put, sometimes your assumptions are wrong, and sometimes your assumptions are right. And if you're a charmed one, your assumptions are very lucky. And then the other one was just like, Prue gives us the strength and will to hang on. That's something that I want people to remember.
Love that. I love that. That's probably what some other innocents have thought about when she's used their telekinesis. Like Amy Adams, when Prue moved her, like maybe Amy Adams was like, wow, Shannen Doherty really gave me the strength to move on.
She's an angel.
She's an angel. There you go.
All right. And then, so where can people find you?
So we are on Instagram at Power of X-Men. I'm on Twitter as well. I don't use Twitter as much, but I'm starting to try to build more of a YouTube presence and a community there. So that's also Power of X-Men. We interview such great people like you coming up, but we have like Jordan D. White, we have Heather McComb, we have Cy Spurrier, we do people from the video games like Patrick Lippo. So we have a really great community going on there. And, we also interview cosplayers like Demanda Martini, Mr. Scott Free, Jason Alucino, aka Nerd Alert. It's just such a wonderful little space we've created where everyone is welcome. So please hit us up on Power of X-Men. Even if you don't know anything about X-Men, I answer every single DM. It may take me a couple days, but
yeah, cool. Well, you can find us at Words of the Witches on pretty much everything: Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. If you look up that Words of the Witches, you'll find us. That's the name of the game. And then you can email wordsofwitchespod@gmail.com.
Or find Hanging with the Hallowells, my other charmed podcast that I co-host with Sean.
And turn in your best baddie rankings. We'll go over them next book. And I guess we'll see you in 2 weeks. Your destiny still awaits.
Thank you, Gramps.